Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Brooks and I'm a senior public policy major here at USAO. Today I'll be talking about voter participation in America and how it's influenced in different ways by different demographic factors. Now, I've been cursed with a fascination with politics from a young age. I understand just how few people my age share my enthusiasm. Maybe that's why informed voter participation has always been so important to me. Elections are the basis of representative democracy, and I want to make sure that everyone knows how to use the tools given to them as American citizens. What we know is that roughly 1 in 3 eligible Americans do not vote in presidential elections, and in midterms the numbers are even higher. If we break it down further, Oklahoma usually ranks around 46th in participation rates. Finally, no surprise, young people, the 18 to 26 age range, are least likely to vote. We know that overall participation changes over time. The 2016 and 2020 elections had significantly more participation than the several elections previous, but in the later 19th century, as many as 80% of eligible voters were participating in presidential elections. Much more cultural emphasis was placed on the power of each individual and their responsibility as citizens. Now, it's been said that people who don't vote don't get to complain about the representatives who get elected for them. Elections are how we make our opinions of our leaders, their actions, and their positions known. But what if we could take a deeper look at exactly who is not voting? That, my friends, is the mission of this research. When we break down the data, we can see which groups are more or less likely to vote, and we can see that there are noticeable differences in voting behavior between different regions. For this project, I used data from the General Social Survey. This is a nationwide survey taken every 2 years and usually asks respondents whether they voted in the most recent presidential election. I put together these results from 1977 to 2018 to form my dependent variable. My independent variables are various demographics, including age, race, religion, education, and so on. I divide the data into 9 geographic regions, such as New England, the Pacific, Deep South, etc., then run a multivariate binary logistic regression for each. So, what do we find? Age, income, and religious service attendance are significant factors in almost every region. The higher you go on each of these scales, the more likely you are to vote. The flip side of this is that people who are younger, who make less money, or attend religious services less often are much less likely to vote. Education is hugely important. People with a bachelor's degree are roughly 3 times as likely to vote as those without one. On the other hand, generally speaking, people with other racial identification, as well as evangelicals and Catholics, are significantly less likely to vote in most regions. Lastly, it should be noted that sex and urbanicity, that's living in urban areas versus rural, only played a significant role in very few regions. However, there are some notable cases where regional breakdown highlights some interesting differences. For example, those affiliated with Black Protestant churches are 3 times more likely to vote than mainline Protestants, but only in New England. In the South Central region, that's Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, having no religious affiliation is uniquely significant. The non-religious in this area are 30% less likely to vote than mainline Protestants. Also of note, African American identification has a wide range of effects. It increases likelihood of voting in the Great Lakes by 36%, but it decreases it in the mountain and New England regions by 43% and 64% respectively. In other regions, it plays no significant role at all. Let's wrap this up by talking about what this information means and how it can be used. The numbers show that there are real and important differences between regions as far as voter participation. In other words, a one-size-fits-all approach isn't going to be as effective. Lawmakers or nonprofit organizations can look at this data and use it to help them strategize how to reach less involved potential voters in particular areas. If we can identify why these people are not involved, address those issues directly, it can have a great impact on elections in the future. Reaching these voters could even shift the balance of party power in some key areas. Obviously, a person's motivations are not defined by their circumstances or position, nor should they be. But understanding how some factors can suppress political participation is important in developing local, state, and national policies going forward. I'm Matthew Brooks, and this has been the USAO Student Showcase.